Hey, hey, everybody! Happy Wine Wednesday! Hope you're having a fabulous week. So sorry we were running behind. Thought I had those internet connection problems worked out. Apparently, I did not. But here we are. And I see Ray's already with us. How are you today, Ray?
I'm still alive.
Yeah, we like to hear that. How are you doing personally? You doing okay? Like
A
health
little
and stuff?
tired from the work I was doing today, and then on top of that, had to do a Walmart pickup for groceries tonight. But it was this afternoon getting my tomatoes and stuff outside. Last night we had a big heavy frost, but I think it's the last one of the year.
Oh, good. Yeah, I have a couple questions for you specifically, but first, I forgot to mention, guys, thank you so much to everyone who wished me happy birthday. May is like my month because I've got the birthday and Mother's Day, so it's just my kind of month. Anyways, surprisingly enough, Red Lobster's open here, and we didn't go in, even though they are allowing people to go in, but the significant other got me a really fantastic meal and some amazing new wines to try. And we're doing some Riesling tonight. So just letting you know why we're looking a little shiny and white tonight. I also got a juicer, guys. Dan has been excellent in teaching me about juicing. But if you guys juice, teach me some recipes because I'm excited to get going on this after this time of, eating terrible stuff or whatever during this lockdown where we don't get much exercise. I'm ready to start juicing and getting healthy. So anyways, thank you so much for the birthday wishes. Let me know if you juice, if you have any recommendations. Let me know what you think of Riesling. Do you like the whites? I'm not a sweet wine drinker. I don't really get into the sweetie, but has enough, has such, the fizz is low and the aroma's high. Let's put it that way. So I like it. And let me know what you guys are doing, how your seahorses are, and everything else. All right, back to Ray. Um, anything new with your seahorses? I
They
know.
haven't gone back to having the pouch emphysema again.
I can't believe it. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. I
So it
mean,
either that stuff worked or it was coincidence.
yeah, well, something you did worked. It could have,
Well, it's heavy coincidence to have both of them at the same time, but
I'm sorry, what? Say that one more
it
time.
was a heck of a coincidence if it was a coincidence and it happening to both seahorses at the same time, both males that had the poach emphysema,
Right.
and I treated them both with that bile bandage, and uh, uh, and now they don't have it.
Right. And before, but just for the record, before that, before you treated with the bio bandage, you also did just regular water flushes and that kind of thing too. You did the normal things
Yeah,
leading up to it, right?
yeah, and I even tried the Diamox.
Oh, you did try the Diamox.
Yeah,
Okay, I thought for some reason you hadn't. Did you try it? How did you use it?
I just dissolved it in fresh salt water
Hmm.
and then picked it up in a hypodermic needle and using the cannula. Well, first of all, we open out the pouch with the rubber tipped bobby pin. Once I have that open, I stick the cannula in and then I give it a good flush with the Diamox and put it back in the water. But
Gotcha.
it didn't work this time.
Well, I'm just so grateful and happy that whatever worked worked. And it'll be interesting if you ever do come across this again, or if anyone else does. We're not recommending it. Ray's, kind of a pro, but if anyone else does try the bio bandage, I'm really interested to see. You just never know. People trying things and things working out is what leads to new, ways to, that's full. So,
I didn't put it in straight. Like I didn't squirt in just pure bile bandage.
mhm.
Um, I put the bile bandage in new salt water and then drew that up into the syringe and squirted it in. So I
Right.
probably had, I'm trying to think, it was a 5 mil syringe,
Mhm.
uh, and there was probably uh, about a milliliter of bile bandage and 4 mil of the salt water.
Gotcha. Well, you know what? Like I said, I'm just glad to hear that it worked. And if anybody wants details on the other things that Ray did, we've talked about it on the past few Wine Wednesdays, so check them out. And of course, he's available on Facebook Messenger to answer any of your questions. And finally, Seahorse Sources Group is always an excellent place to ask questions, and you'll get people like Ray. They're answering them, and myself, of course. Melissa, I just saw that you joined. Hi, thank you. Want to know what's up with you. In fact, just wanted to throw, I do want to talk more about seahorses, guys, but when I see people jump in, I've got to say it while they might be still here. And Melissa, if you're still here, I'm curious to know, because you of all people would, I saw recently that MACNA is planning to still hold, well, MASNA is still planning to hold MACNA this year in Arizona, right? No, I can't remember. Anyways, I heard that it was still planning to happen. So if you have any news about upcoming events that are planning to still be held, I would love you to share that information. Let me know, because I am falling behind on planning for things because I wasn't sure what would be happening and what wouldn't. So would love any resources you want to share in the comments, or let me know later, or whatever you want to do. But we would love to hear what's going to be occurring for the reef and seahorse community this year, if anything still is. And I think I saw somebody else. No, not yet. I thought maybe Dan joined. No, he did not. Okay, so yeah, let me know, Melissa, and let me know how you're doing. Miss you too. Thank you for the happy birthday and all that good stuff. Mermaids Reef said your new tank will be here tomorrow, so you can transfer all the stuff over from the old tank and finally get seahorses. Woo wee. Yeah, baby. I'm so happy. I'm not going to scream into y'all's ear, but woo. I think I saw somebody else. No, not yet. I thought maybe Dan joined. No, he's not. Uh-oh. Not going back. Okay, I think it's fixed. We're having all sorts of electronical difficulties over here. But anyhow, all right, so guys, we'll keep chit-chatting about whatnot, but if you have questions, please put them in the comment section, so that we can chat with each other, or else, yeah, I'm sure it gets boring listening to me and Ray. So let me know what's going on with you. I've been working on a couple of things to talk about macroalgae in the seahorse tank. And Ray, hey, did you happen to see? I was really interested. We don't see seahorse people getting awards, and that's a really lame way to put it. But typically, you
The
don't,
Amanda,
huh?
the Amanda Vincent.
Yeah, the Amanda Vincent. And, people have different feelings about it, but the bottom line is it's a very prestigious, and for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, okay. So there's an Indianapolis Prize, is what it's called, and it's a prize awarded by the Indianapolis Zoo. I'm from Indiana, y'all, so I'm prideful here. To individuals for extraordinary contributions to conservation efforts affecting one or more animal species. And not only is it a big deal that she won the award 2020, right? Not only is that a huge deal because she's a woman, so it's big for women, and she's mainly into seahorse conservation, which is big for the seahorse conservation. So no matter what side of the thing you're on, this is really impressive and good. Ray, have you seen people win these types of awards that are doing seahorse research before?
Oh, I can't say I have.
Yeah, so I just think it's pretty cool. Again, conservation is always good. Sometimes they overreach a bit, but it's always good. They're doing good things. They're saving seahorses in the ocean. They get some things wrong, but that's how we learn and grow, right? And so I just want to personally say congratulations to Amanda Vincent, because that is really great, and I hope that she continues to try to make progress in conservation of seahorses in the wild. We're in a different area here in captive breeding, but we got to high five those doing their part on the other end. Science matters. All right. So, anyways, just wondered if you guys had heard that and what you thought of it. Any good posts or anything going on, Ray, that you've seen that we should chit chat
Well,
about? No.
actually, I think the traffic, in the seahorse situations over the last week has been a little down. I think hasn't been as much.
By traffic, you mean posts, like
Yeah, people
conversations?
posting on Facebook or on forums and that
I
hasn't been all that much.
I'm really curious. I wonder if it's because more people are, because areas are opening up. I wanted to ask you, Ray, what's the current situation in Canada? Like, where are you
Oh,
at? Is everything still closed down, locked down?
there's places that are starting to open up, unfortunately. Um, I know we ended up a 45th death occurred here now.
Mm,
At, and our population is 405,000. I thought it was only about 350,000, but I just find out now it's over the 400,000. So I haven't been keeping track of my own city.
gosh,
But
me neither. Don't feel bad.
that's not too bad, proportionally speaking. But in Canada here, we've got a tenth of the population that the U.S. has. So if you multiply our deaths by 10, we don't come anywhere near the deaths you have in the U.S.
Right. No, I hear you. I have to be completely honest with you. The reason that I was asking is because I started realizing, I'll just be really point blank blunt, guys. I started, you know, in the US, they've done quite a bit. I have to give them credit. The government's done quite a bit. Probably not enough, but they've done quite a bit in trying to extend unemployment benefits and, send checks to households and take care of businesses through PPP. And bottom line is, again, no matter what side you're on, they're doing something, okay? But for instance, the unemployment benefits will end in July. And so, I'm always looking ahead and I'm a big worrier. And of course, I'm much more concerned, for the record, about the safety of people above all. But just thinking about actually, being in crisis and not being able to pay the rent is kind of scary too. And I started just asking my significant other, didn't they say May that they were going to start back up? And I realized it's going to be a lot harder than we thought. Even, of course, safety number one, but even if a vaccine came out, even if whatever came out, it's going to be harder than we thought. Because the bottom line is, like, my significant other works for a company that deals with trucks going over the border. So if the border's closed and Canada's still on lockdown, he's not going back to work for a long time. So I was just curious, Ray, like, what?
Well, we have trucks going across the border.
Right.
The ordinary people can't cross unless you are bringing like stuff that has to come to store over here from down the states.
Mm,
Anything like that that's got to be sold, that comes across no problem. But if you want to go for a visit down there, well, also like we have a lot of nurses here that go across the border,
apparently, I have a friend.
go into Michigan, and so they're allowed to go across.
Mm,
So people that have to go across for specific reasons, as long as it's essential, then that traffic is going across.
sure,
But
that's my whole point. Is
to go down the states for a visit, there's no way.
right, and I'm not even saying that, but I just meant that until the factories are truly open, the businesses are not going to be spending as much. I mean, just trade's going to suffer, and any business that's associated with trade is going to suffer. So it just, I don't know, it just got real. I've cared the entire time about everyone,
Let me
safety,
bring
health,
that up
but
too, because this week it's on the news here in Canada, the border crossings, in that a lot of the administration in the U.S. is wanting to open things up, and our prime minister doesn't want it open, and our premier here in Ontario most definitely doesn't want it open. They don't want the exposure. They want to go a slower rate. While they're starting to open things up here, they want to do things one heck of a lot slower than
sure.
what they in so many places in the U.S.
Hmm.
Um, probably, uh, we're probably closer to Michigan type regulation than say Texas.
Right, but okay, yeah, and Mermaid's Reef just made the point. At this point, things need to start opening up, or it's going to have a huge ripple effect with things being shut down permanently. So, Ray, do you think we can survive this? I mean, I know that again, the crucial part is making sure as many people survive as possible. But can
Well,
we
we can
really
survive,
survive if businesses collapse and
but we'll survive. But the thing is, uh, we're paying a price now. We're going to be paying a price for a decade, probably, in my opinion. At the very least, we're going to be paying a price for 5 years. It's not going to be something that's just over and done with. All
right?
this money that's going out, we're going to be paying for
Yeah,
it, and it's going to take a long time to pay for it. And if we don't pay for it, and this is both there and here, um, whatever we're borrowing now to take into account for all this, we're going to be paying the interest on it.
right. I know.
The loan is crippling.
Yeah,
So uh, unless we can get it, like, I don't know how to say it, there is no way we can not do it, in my opinion.
not
Um,
do what? Stay locked
we,
down or
we
open
can't
up?
do, we can't do the things to try and support by spending the money now and doing certain things now. The only thing I don't like is there's not enough protection. There's all sorts of crooked people in this world, and they take advantage of situations like this to make themselves rich,
Yeah,
either them personally or their companies. And it's the same down the states. It's here in Canada. You're always going to have people like that. That's going to happen, and I just get fed up that governments, doesn't matter where you are, the governments do not take the time to put the controls on that need to be on to prevent that stuff from happening. That, to me, that's the most frustrating thing.
wait, to prevent what now? I think
To
I.
prevent the fraud, the people that are ripping off
Oh,
all the money that's coming out.
sure. Yeah, no, I agree with you there for sure. There's always going to be the bad guys that take advantage of the programs that, et cetera, and so on. And guys, if you have Seahorse questions, I just want to keep repeating, please ask them. We're going to get back to it in a second, or reef, or macros. I don't mean, definitely don't mean for this to go back to what's already on the news everywhere constantly, but it's just what's kind of on everyone's mind, I guess, because everyone's afraid, and it's not good to live in fear, I think. And so, I personally keep praying that, they do get the virus thing situated. I agree with everyone who's in the comments who's saying that the original point of the shutdown was to give hospitals a chance to prepare. But I guess,
But
guys,
in here in Canada, that's not the only reason.
see, that's what I was just gonna say that, Ray. I was just gonna say, guys, what do we do if a lot of and I've heard the news quite a bit that we need to be more self-reliant in the U.S. instead of so dependent upon trade. I've heard that argument. I'm not saying what I think about it. Just that's the argument I heard, and it kind of is being played out here because we might have had that goal. That might have been the reason we did it, and we might be ready to open up. But if other countries are not, and they're going to literally wait out a vaccine or open so slowly that businesses collapse, what then? I don't know. It's just, even if we open that, I guess that was my big thought is,
For
even if,
me, I have to wait for the vaccine.
hmm?
I can't even have contact with my family because my kidney disease and my lung problem. My doctor told me I'm dead if I get the virus.
And Ray, I couldn't agree more. And I think that people in your situation should definitely be helped in any way possible. And you definitely should stay home until there's a vaccine. And it's a proven vaccine.
Well,
So,
I don't think everybody should have to stay home, but I think they have to do more in the way of testing.
mhm.
We're not doing enough testing and following up, especially for people that don't show any symptoms. Like if you're asymptomatic, you could be out there passing this off to all sorts of people, even your own family. Like maybe you're going to end up bumping off your grandfather, or your grandmother, just because you're not being tested and you don't know you've got it.
Right, right. I don't discredit that argument because it's a good one. But the thing is, I've heard many arguments saying that the tests aren't extremely accurate, first of all, and
One is
second of, I'm sorry,
one is not accurate.
the tests that I
Yeah,
mean,
one test is not accurate.
I
And
don't, I can't
unfortunately,
give
it's
you,
the one that the president is using in the White House.
okay, the one the president is using in the White House literally said that Mike Pence's staff aide was negative one day and then positive the next. She, had been taking precautions, and I don't know. And then I heard, I read something about someone being tested positive and then negative the next day. I worry about the accuracy, and I worry about people being too dependent upon testing. They've said test, test, test. Then when we got a lot of tests, they said, why are you so proud of your testing? I mean, it's just on and on and on about this testing. And I'm like, I asked about the antibody test because I believe I've already had coronavirus. I believe I had it when I was really sick, you guys, when I couldn't do Wine Wednesday because I was so sick. I think at the beginning of February or something. Um, 3 of my 4 family members were really sick in this household, and we, of course, stayed home and stayed away from people for an entire month and blah, blah, blah. But my point is, if I could give antibodies to someone like Ray, I want to do it. The antibody testing is not in my area, at least as far as I'm aware of. And the only thing they're doing at this current point is testing people who, the only people they're testing for the antibody test are people who were diagnosed with coronavirus already. So if I didn't take a test because there were no tests available in February, then they're not going to test me and not going to know now. So I can't help anybody with the antibody situation. And as far as the actual coronavirus testing, I think that it's great. I just can see where the logic that we need to test everybody to reopen is flawed, because we could
You
test
don't need to test everybody. You have to test
anybody sick.
a large enough section of the population to know where the problems are, where and how many asymmetric people there are out there, and then be able to trace them when you
Mhm.
do find those people, to trace down people that they've been in contact with so you can shut it down.
Yeah, well, I can't speak for every state, and I certainly can't speak for the United States, but I know in Indiana, where I live, they're doing just that. But a lot of the, I think, debate is because they're putting the testing. The government has supplied so much testing, and they're saying, the state, of course, covers anyone who wants a test at this point, anyone who's sick, um, blah 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 blah. But they're kind of saying, shouldn't the companies do this? Like, I just keep hearing the argument that people should be tested before they go back to work, and I agree. But shouldn't, like, my company test everyone coming through the door that day to make sure they're not sick? You know what I mean? Would that make sense?
Well, maybe the companies aren't in a position to be able to do it.
Maybe.
I think it should be uh, here, the provinces, and there should be the states doing it, but they need uh, proper centralization from the feds, be it the US or the Canadian feds. They need someone that can look at the overall picture and then distribute things where and when it needs to be done.
Well, I think
Um,
I think here we've got Dr. Burke all over that.
when you look at all the states there, when they're sitting there trying to get product and they're fighting against one state or another, and the price keeps going up because they're in a bidding war trying to get the stuff. That's no good. When the feds can step in there and buy whatever they need without any competition and then distribute it out to all the states as it's needed. That would make much more sense. And when you're already blowing money to beat hell all over the place in this situation,
Right?
uh, whatever you can save is a good thing, in my opinion.
I hear you. I think some of the bidding war stuff and the states can't get what they need and etc. I think my personal opinion is that it's exaggerated. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not in politics. I don't
Here,
know. You said what?
we can't get it here either. Like, it's a world situation, but we can't get what we need here.
Really?
That's right.
So you feel like if you went to the hospital right now, you would not get cared for properly?
Well, I won't go to the hospital now because it's a death sentence.
See, and that's scary too. But go ahead. Anyways.
But the thing is that there just isn't the equipment around. When my doctor first told me that I had what I had to do here, and she told me to get a mask, and she says, and get a good face shield. Well,
Mhm.
I still haven't been able to get a face shield. I had to make one up out of a pop bottle, styrofoam, and coat hanger.
Now I want to see that, Ray. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Sorry. Oh boy,
Certainly,
he's gonna show us. Okay, well, really quick, I wanted to say, Nicole, I completely understand your feelings about herd immunity. I really kind of feel like there's no way we can beat this. Every doctor's saying we can't beat this, so I don't know the answers. We're just Wine Wednesday chatting, guys. We can move to Seahorses, but let's look at Ray's. Yes, and you made that out of a what?
that's a soda bottle. Here we call it a pop bottle. In the States, I guess you call it soda.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And what's
I
holding?
took a coat hanger
Yeah.
and bent it to fit my forehead exactly.
Okay.
And I had some styrofoam downstairs. You know, in the hobby, you run across a lot of styrofoam, and I
Sure.
don't throw anything out. So I took the coat hanger and I put it on the styrofoam and then cut with a bread knife so it had the form that fits my forehead. And then or I took the pop bottle, cut the top and bottom off, and then slid it up, and then screwed it onto the styrofoam. And then I had a sweatband that I
That's
cut and
awesome.
used there to fasten on there. And then the coat hanger that I used for the to get the form on the forehead, I put it along the bottom there to give some more stability at the bottom because pop bottle wants to shrink up when you cut it. Like it'll go from like about a
Mm.
4 inch diameter to about 2 inch diameter once you cut it up the length. But anyway, it, it's not ideal. It's not a commercial product, but I can't get one. Even my doctor tried to get one for me and a couple other patients that he said needed it, and she was unable to get them.
Well, I mean, that sucks, but I just have to say that it's really so cool to see the genius things that people come up with when they have to. And
Yeah,
I really don't know the answers. I do want to. We can talk about anything else you want, Ray, about this, but I do want to jump over to asking you guys about seahorse stuff too. But I don't know the answers.
horse anytime.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go into this. I'm very curious. I love talking to you because you are in Canada. And so I get to learn how it is in a different place and kind of the opinions of people in other places has always interested me.
But the
I'm,
people in Canada are basically the same as in the States. You have two sides,
yeah,
and uh, the two sides are never going to meet.
sure. And that's a shame. I think it's a real shame. I think it would have been really amazing to see some good come of this,
Decades ago, you would have seen it that way, but
right.
people are changing. People are more selfish now.
Right. I know. Well, I just sincerely hope that no matter what happens, that we do continue to protect the people that need it, like you. I definitely will never say anything besides that. And I just hope that there's a way that we can do it so that everybody else doesn't fall apart. Because I'm getting a little nervous over here. But anyways, okay, guys, if you don't want us to keep rambling, ask us some questions. Hi, Luke. Hi, Salty. Um, Let me know how you're doing too, Salty, for sure. And, I'm also curious about what's going on with, like, the aquarium industry. Like, Ray, you said you had a really difficult time getting medications. Of course, that's in Canada. And I know we have difficult times getting medications here for other reasons in the US. But you guys in the excuse me, in the audience, have you noticed that there's any trouble getting supply right now? Whether it be I was honestly surprised when I looked at a couple of different people getting new coral in right now and getting new fish in right now. I guess I just hadn't tried, so didn't have much to stand on. But I just figured, I guess, that it would be more difficult right now. And I'm very curious. And I was actually researching before we started tonight. What's going on in places like Hawaii. How in the world that has changed now because of the fact that we've got all these different rules now. I just wonder how the industry's taking it. So let me know what you guys know, if you've had any experiences where it's been difficult to get something that you usually get. I know Dan mentioned last week that Seahorse Savvy It's still full on doing well in business, and you can still get Seahorses from Seahorse Savvy. So definitely do that. Oh my gosh, I keep begging for y'all's questions, and I forgot my own. Ray, you can help answer, but I'm talking to the audience too, guys. I had a terrible situation happen to me 2 days ago. I was going to feed my
You or your
seahorse.
seahorse?
Well, my seahorses, but it was terrible for me as a seahorse mom, okay? Anyways, so I go to feed the seahorses like I always do. It was the nighttime feeding, but whatever. Everything had seemed normal at the last feeding. And my female, my favorite female, my oldest female, not Cheryl, but my oldest adult female, which would I guess probably be Cheryl's mother. Anyways, she was face planted in a patch of algae on the I don't even know what the bottom of the tank. I don't have sand, so the glass. And there was algae there, and she had her face in it. And I was like, "What's she doing? Is she, hunting for food?" I just figured whatever. And then I see that her tail was kind of curled into a rock, and I'm like, "Well, surely she's just hanging on." So I stood there like a seahorse mom forever, like everybody's saying, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "My seahorse isn't moving. It's not doing right. Something's wrong. I know it. I feel it." Anyways, this seahorse, female again, I don't know. Well, I'm open to your opinion. So, anyways, she's face down, not moving, tail like kind of curled into a rock, and I thought maybe she's stuck. So I went to put a very long net in to just kind of nudge to see if she was stuck or something, and in the rock. She it took a little jiggle because she was hitched, I guess, but she came right out, no movement. I'm talking, she stayed in the same. I thought she was dead. I was so upset. I saw no, like I didn't focus in on the gills, which I should have. I was freaking out, but like her face didn't move from anything. So yeah, I'm like Sean, sorry, significant other guy. Whoops. I think my female passed away. I would only guess that it was old age because she is like 7 years old or something, and we've debated about the age of seahorses. But anyways, I thought for sure she was passed away. I was like, oh, so upset. A male swims forward, hitches his tail into hers, and kind of like swims away with her, tries to swim away with her from me, I guess. And then she started moving. Craziest thing I've ever seen. This seahorse sat without moving in the same position for a good hour. What in the world is going on? And I don't mean a position like hitched and just sitting there flowing in the breeze. I mean on the bottom of the tank looking dead. What is that about? Is she just old and tired or what? What do you guys think?
Never experienced it myself.
I hadn't either. It was awful, and I can't stand it. If they're gonna get old, it's gonna kill me. But have you guys ever experienced anything like that? Every time I've had a seahorse on the bottom of the tank laying there like that in that kind of stiff deceased position, it's always been bad. So but ever since the past 2 days, I've been watching because I was convinced there was something at least wrong with her. And so today or yesterday, the significant other was doing the feeding, and he was like, "Look, she's up dancing in my face. She's fine." It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. So I just wondered if you guys have seen anything like that, what you think. I don't know. I mean, Ray, I shouldn't like there's no indication of an issue, so I'm not gonna pull her or anything in quarantine. There's no
All you
treatment.
can do is keep an eye.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but curious what you guys think. Um, Okay, so that was my crisis of the week. Tell me yours so we can chat about it. All right.
I
Let's.
see Mermaid's Reef was looking for live
Yep.
mice.
Yep.
Uh, if she has a reef tank, she can get a light with a red lens on and shine it around the rock work at nighttime, and you can see them cavorting around the rock work. And once you know where the most populated area is, you can stick a hose in, uh, like half-inch or 5/8 diameter, and let it sit in that area till the next night. And after lights are out, and once you're using this red light to see where they are, then uh, you can all of a sudden do a suction on it and suck up some mycetes. And after you do this a few times, it might take you a couple of nights, but you'll get, half a dozen to a dozen each time. And then you put them in the tank and they'll populate on their own.
And him saying that, great suggestion, Ray. But I'm curious how many of you out there are like me. I'm super, super careful when it comes to my seahorses. So I don't ever, I'm so worried about things like cross contamination that I don't take anything from my reef and put it into my seahorse tank, like without a huge quarantine period. I know Cheryl Taylor, we had talked once because I was wanting to move some of my gorgonians into my seahorse tank, and I'd asked her, do coral and do invertebrates and etc. Do they really cause any kind of concern for cross contamination, or can I just throw them in? And she was super ultra careful. Of course, she's a breeder, so whatever. But she was super ultra careful also, and she advised a really long quarantine period, which most people don't want to go through. So I'm just curious if any of you, out there have that same fear or same, I don't even know what else to call it, of mixing things from the reef into the seahorse tank. I didn't
Yeah.
say it was good. I just said it was,
Mycetes.
huh?
You're not taking a coral or something like that out.
Right.
Although,
Invertebrates are definitely different. Go ahead.
like some people do go out and they'll buy reef rock, or they'll buy a rock that's got a coral on it, and they stick
Yeah.
it in their tank, and they automatically end up with the mycetes.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
that's like mycetes are probably in at least half the rock that gets sold, half the corals that get
Hmm.
sold.
Yeah, you're probably right. I will say also though that I actually know I don't know I'm gonna have to check after we get offline. I will check for you and I will post in the comments the three places that I use to actually buy live mycetes. I always pronounce it wrong. It's like socks or Sotches or something like that in Florida. And I will actually call myself and find out if they're open and doing any business. The
Right.
other, go ahead.
Well, SACHS.
Yeah, I think that's it. Apostrophe S.
SACHS.
Yeah, S-A. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'll look it up. I'll post the link and I'll call myself to find out and let you know in the comments after we're done whether or not they're open and selling things. Also, I know for a fact that aquaculture, I'm going to say this wrong, aquaculture nursery farms is what I believe it's called. I get emails like every day telling me they have sales. I do know that they were out of mycids for a long period of time. I don't know why, but I know that they were out for a while, so I'll check for that and post that link when we're done. Um, and the other
Mycetes
place.
and the mycetes are a different thing. Your mycetes basically um, are freshwater. The mycetes are considered saltwater.
Oh,
But
right. You're right.
there's a place, I think MBL Aquaculture rings a bell.
Yes, they're very good too. I'm just
And matter
sorry.
of fact, they were the ones I copied their plans that they had for building my mycete generator.
Oh,
When
really?
I used to grow mycetes.
That's awesome. See, you got to share that stuff with us, Ray, more often. I'm sure you've got to
Well,
post some of
they
them.
took it down off the website.
You
I
did?
think it was hindering their sales if people were going to grow their own.
Ah,
But
right.
it's a lot of work growing their own.
Right. See, Dan, when he helps people with seahorses and breeding seahorses, he's always had the opinion that it won't hurt him because when people realize how difficult it really is, they don't, like me, I breed for fun, but I could never go professional because it is so, I give so much credit to people like Dan and Alyssa and even you who act, and Chris, who have to take care of fry constantly because it's a lot of work. But I get the point with mycids. The cannibalism is what always got me. I tried myself and I failed. You were successful, Ray, in
Oh
raising
yeah,
and breeding.
oh
Really?
yeah. But see, it takes so much. You need a bunch of 10-gallon tanks because
Mm,
mycetes are so cannibalistic,
yeah.
and you need a mycete generator. Basically, you have the adult mycetes in one part of it, and then there's a tube that you're changing. How do I say it? There's a divider in a 20-gallon tank, and that you're taking the water from the small side, dumping it into the large side where the adults are, and you have a tube that runs from the bottom up over the divider into a catch basin in this small side here. And when you're pumping the water into that large side from the small side, that means water's going up that tube and over
Hmm.
into the small side. And the newborn Naplee, excuse
Napoleon.
me,
Mm-hmm.
they can't uh, swim away from the flow.
Hmm.
They get near that tube at the bottom there, they get sucked up and then collected in the collector bag. But
That's so cool.
the adults are good, strong swimmers, and they stay away from that flow. As soon as they feel the tug on them, they move away.
Now, was it really difficult to get that flow just perfect so that they could swim away, or was it pretty
Not
simple?
really.
Really?
No, it was okay.
Mm,
And the only problem is you have to have a pile of tanks for it, because
right.
if you've got ones that you took out 3 weeks ago, and then ones you took out 2 weeks ago, well, the 3 week old ones will eat the 2 weeks, and the one
Right.
week old ones, and the 2 week ones will eat the 1 week old ones. So you've got to keep them pretty well the same size.
Separated by age and size, right? I
Yeah,
did an interview with Chad Clayton. He wasn't talking about mysis shrimp, or mysids or whichever. He wasn't talking about them, but he was talking about just cultivating different phytoplankton and all that good stuff. Check it out on the YouTube channel. He gave so much excellent detail. It was one of my first videos, guys. It's long and kind of boring, but he shares so much great information in that interview. You wouldn't believe it. But Ray, I like your system for doing the mysids. Now, and you said the mysids are the saltwater and the mysis are the fresh. Is that
yeah, they both
okay?
fall under a general category of mysis, but
Okay,
as it breaks down,
the
um,
species. There's
yeah,
probably a name in front of it.
like when you buy frozen mysis, they're fresh water.
Right.
They're not salt water.
Gotcha.
Mysids are salt water, and that's what you get in your tank, the little shrimp-looking things that come in with the rock and the corals and that.
Hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Well, there's an interesting idea if you're willing to culture them yourself. And Ray made the great idea of pulling them from the reef using the red light. And I will post the links to where I buy them if you would like those also. And I'll do you one more and call and find out whether or not they're open for business tomorrow and comment in the description later. And Nicole said, just out of curiosity, if you quarantine invertebrates or coral, how do you know if they're carrying anything before placing them in the main tank? Like snails, for example, what do you look for? Okay, so there's never a guarantee for sure. The whole thing with quarantine, observational quarantine, when you're not actually treating, you're just actually letting it sit to see if like aptasia come out of, a gorgonian or hydroids or whatever. Um, the idea with coral or anything along that line, like gorgonians is my main thing, or macroalgae or whatever, is that I put it into a tank with a light, and that's about it. No fish, nothing else in there. Or I would, if I wanted to set up some sort of display while I was quarantining, I would use a fish that I'd had forever and that I knew was completely, not, didn't have anything. But usually I'll throw macroalgae or invertebrate, or I'm sorry, or gorgonians or whatever into a tank with just a little bit of flow and some light, and just let it sit. The letting it sit idea is again to see if anything pops out of the little crevices, especially if it's attached to anything or whatever. And also time. Time heals all. Most parasites, most of the things that occur that give us problems in our aquariums are things that have a host. I said most, not all. Um, but so by letting it sit for, I mean, Taylor literally lets things sit for 6 months, I think. I'm not that wonderful. So I usually go like a month or two. But by letting things sit without any host in the aquarium to help it survive, any kind of parasite like that will die. Um, I'm not scientific enough to know how it affects bacterial issues, but I just think personally that without a host in there, that's my thoughts. That's what I do with snails. Again, it's more observational. I just stick them in an aquarium with either nothing or fish that I've had for a long time. And if you were really worried, like if you had a seahorse tank that you really valued, and you had snails or whatever come in, putting it in an aquarium, a small aquarium with a fish that you've had forever to see if it affected that fish is, just another kind of thing that would tell you. But yeah, that's my main method is time for no host, and just like any kind of fallow period in any kind of aquarium setting. That's what I do. So that's how I do it. I think I answered it probably extensively. Let me know. Um, let me know if I answered what you were asking. Okay, and then we've got Salty Reef answering. Dipping coral for sure, absolutely. Quarantine for a few days, visual inspections, and dip again. See, yeah, things that and Salty Reef, great. Thank you for making sure to say that out loud, because you don't have to let everything sit. But there are many macros. I'm more of a macro and gorgonian girl, and when you talk about macros, gorgonian snails, you can't dip those. You know what I'm saying? Or can you dip snails? I don't think you can dip snails, but I don't anyways. So I have to take the sit, wait, and be patient method. And I don't know why I've got my little friend here tonight. Somebody left him on the couch, but yeah. Hi. All right. Anyway, so okay, but good point, Salty. Dipping when you're talking about coral for absolute sure, agreed. And then 3 to 5 weeks, you said, for observational quarantine for sure. Perfect, and thank you. Mermaid's Reef, what's going on with you? You said thank you so much. I'm trying to figure out for what. Oh, that was your question. Anyways, wait, I'm missing questions. I just saw Holly. Hi. I saw a bunch of questions apparently that weren't there a second ago. Sorry, guys. All right, wave maker or more power heads should I get to prevent brown algae on my sponges and gorgonians? Brown algae. Gosh, I hate these. Yeah. Salty, you want to help me with this one? Brown algae, I'm thinking like diatoms. Is that what you mean? Because that, I would have to say, Holly, I think we've talked before, and I hate asking the same questions over. I'm so sorry. But how old's the tank? Because diatoms and the brown algae are typically a stage in the life cycle. So if I've just set up a tank, or even if I've had it running for a while, if I see brown algae, I will usually check my maintenance schedule, use hand removal. Your idea for flow, I know your question was just which to do, wave maker or more power heads. But I'm thinking putting direct flow to remove diatoms or brown algae might end up, with certain coral hurting it. Let me check. My personal answer, I really like wave makers because of the control that you hold over the flow. If you're looking at a certain area, like if you hadn't said on sponges and gorgonians, if you had just said to prevent brown algae, I would have said, sure, throw a power head in the tank in that exact area, because obviously you have an area of low flow and maybe even a dead spot. So throw a power head in, blast it, or whatever, but it's really not going to resolve the problem. So my method is typically to use a wave maker to provide flow throughout, and different, levels of flow, kind of stuff. And then I'm going to get back to you on the diatoms, because I just don't want to say it incorrectly, to be honest. Ray, what do you do when you see brown algae in an aquarium?
Well, I've got black algae, but I don't do much about it. It's basically only growing on the guard that I have on a heater that's in there, and it grows on some of the power heads. But the main place it grows is on the macro.
Mm-hmm.
It has a couple spikes on it. Let's see, there's about half a dozen spikes there now. I don't even worry about it.
Because do you see it as kind of a phase thing, like it just goes away on its own? That's been my experience with most of that. But go ahead.
I don't know, I've had it for a long time. It's not like
Hmm.
on everything in the tank. It has a few things that it's on, and it's a natural thing in the wild.
Sure.
Uh, I don't know. I just live with it. And once in a while, if I do find it's getting heavier than what I want to put up with, then I'll suck some of it off with the tube when I'm doing the water change, and let the mackerel get sucked up into the tube, and it'll take some off. And then for what it doesn't, it has to be pruned anyway. So I just prune off the ones that have the diatoms on. Well, I don't know the difference between diatoms and cyano.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Yeah. Big difference. And
they
brown or
both
red.
they
What?
both could be,
Sure. They're
made from
both bad.
cyano instead of diatoms, or if I have no way to know.
Well, cyano is usually red or blue green. Diatoms are brown. And then,
It's basically a black.
black. Well, Salty Reef just made a good question. Do you, because I was assuming diatoms, but if it's brown slime, that's a whole different mess. Like if we're talking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't remember the name of it. What's the terrible one, guys? What is the terrible one? I'm about to Google it my darn self. Because it's
What?
the brown slime algae. I had it in my reef. It was terrible. I thought I was going to have to break down my reef tank, but Cruz Aries helped me alleviate the problem. But let's see. Oh my gosh, it's killing me. Tell me what the name is. Salty.
Cyanobacteria.
No, 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 no. Hang on. Nope, nope, nope. Hang on. It's the one that people literally dinos. Yes, dinoflagellates. Yes, man. People tear down their aquariums over these stupid things. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And that, if anybody, if you're talking about slime algae like that, or dinos, let me get you an exact quoted response because it's involved. But I did save my reef aquarium from a terrible, terrible outbreak, and Cruz gave me the exact method, and it's a bunch of steps. So, yeah, dinoflagellates. Thank you. Yes, correct, correct, correct. Hate those things for sure. But like things like, what do you guys do in the audience? Actually, don't leave it up to me to answer all these questions. This is group chat.
Well,
Um,
never had it.
what be thankful. It's this snotty, bubbly, slimy, nasty mess that just takes over everything, covers everything. It's the worst thing in the world. So I'm going to pray, Holly, that you're talking about diatoms. In fact, it would help maybe if you could throw us a picture um, of the brown algae that you're talking about, because that helps. Because you kind of have to know what the algae is before you can really get into how to get rid of it. So usually I just say, okay, yeah. But what do you guys do? Have any of you guys experienced dinos, and how did you rid the tank of it? What do you do when you see diatoms in the tank or brown algae in general? Ray's method. I forgot to mention. I told you guys I've been working on some macro videos and information, and I think it's telling that when you see beautiful, gorgeous macroalgae aquariums online, it's typically very recently cleaned and harvested. And I just want to say that for the record because when my favorite macroalgae aquarium was in the Reef Hobbyist magazine, I got so many calls, so many messages like, how did you do that? First of all, how did you get all the different species of macros? And then how did you keep the tank looking so good? Every time I do macros, it's, there's slime, there's hair algae, there's blah, blah, blah. And please let me be completely honest and tell you, every macroalgae tank is going to have the bad algae too. What you do is you try your best to outcompete is the number one with good, and then you prune, remove, harvest, and clean. It takes some work. It's not easy keeping a beautiful macroalgae tank. Ask Krista. She's one of my mentors, and she has a beautiful aquarium, but we talk on the side all the time about, did you see this? How do you get rid of this? How do you do that? And it takes cleaning, it takes work. So don't believe any beautiful aquarium. Just like seahorses, guys. When you see somebody with these gorgeous seahorses that are exotic and probably not captive bred, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want those. How are you doing that? And then you kind of never hear from the person again, or you only see pictures at certain times. It's because they're taking good pictures at a good moment. You know, always ask the questions and find out the truth. I can tell you with macroalgae, you're gonna see the bad algae too. It's about cleaning and harvesting. All right, and I'm done with my spiel. All right, Philosophish has said I'm having an issue with bubble algae. Normally, I just throw an emerald crab in there, but with the pandemic, I can't seem to get my hands on one. Philosophish, I asked earlier whether or not people were having trouble getting fish and supplies. So that's interesting. Where have you tried to buy? Because I really thought, based on a brief glance online, that most places were still selling and still open. So I obviously the local stores aren't open, but let me know where you're tried, and I'll try to locate one for you. But if you're talking about also, are you talking about a seahorse tank? Just out of curiosity, because I gotta say it out loud. I don't usually keep emerald crabs in a seahorse tank just because of their tendency to bite when they or pinch. Sorry, when they get older. But if you want to, and that's what you're doing, I'll try to locate one for you. Um, as far as not being, I've never found a cure for bubble algae aside from an emerald crab. They say that Vibrant works on bubble algae. Um, it did not for me, but many people have said that Vibrant, the aquarium cleaning supply, whatever it's called. I'll try to link it in the description when we're done if you would care to try it. But I'm just saying it didn't work for me. But I hope it works for you. I know many people have said it has. Um, Ray, you can speak. Sorry, you had the problem in one of your reef tanks.
Oh,
What'd you do?
I was typing, so I got lost.
No, it's okay. So the bubble algae was due to excessive nutrients.
Yeah, when I was early in my um, stage, like I started January '94, and this was a couple years later, and I'd been putting up with this damn bubble algae for so long, and it was just getting worse. And it was at the stage it just covered my rocks all over. And I was warned, you don't burst the bubbles because the spores get all over and just make it worse. And finally run across one guy that told me that it was due to excessive nutrients in the tank.
Mm,
And so we talked about how much I fed. He was here when we were talking about, so he saw this particular tank, and I thought I was feeding the other tanks the same way, but he says, well, proportionally speaking, you're overfeeding this tank compared to your other tanks.
mm,
And so he suggested cutting back to X amount at the time there, and he said he says it's going to take a while, but you start doing more cleaning, and once you get this excessive garbage that's in there, get that cleaned out, and stop uh, putting this excessive amount of food in there to
yeah.
let the nutrients build up. He says it'll go away.
Whoops.
So I did that, and it went away. Now it was a long time, and I can't tell you now because
Sure.
I remember how many months it was, but it was a long time. And at first, I swear I probably went 3 months and never saw it getting better at all.
Sure.
And he was giving me the gears. But then all of a sudden, I started noticing that it's not quite as bad.
Hmm.
And a little bit later on, you could definitely tell that it was getting better.
Yep. Everything in this hobby takes patience and time. I tell you. Go ahead. Sorry.
But
Go ahead.
at that point, it gave me some more incentive to clean better, even.
Yep.
And then it went at a faster pace.
Sure.
Once you get it going, um, then you can keep it going and you can speed it up. It's just frustrating at first to do so much and not see anything happen. But
Yeah. And I wanted to mention too that a lot of people think that that's really difficult if you're talking about a seahorse tank. Like you can't limit the feeding. But Ray has talked
I
multiple
do
times.
limit eating.
I just was gonna say Ray has talked multiple times on this channel, and we'll let him say it again about. Go ahead, Ray. How do you limit feeding?
I feel that multiple feedings are better and feeding less at a time. So I feed enough that they'll eat it up in 10 to 12 minutes, 15 at the outside. And if they're still feeding after that, you're feeding them too much.
Hmm.
Uh, that ends up um, partly with food that they don't eat. You're going to have some of it's going to be in the tank there. And
Sure.
so if you're feeding excessively, you're going to have more even that they don't eat. You're also going to have more food passing through the seahorse at a faster clip, so it's not digested as well. And while you've got cleanup crew and various other microorganisms that are going to feed on that, they too have their own, yeah, what's the word I want?
Poop?
Yeah,
Not probably
well,
not
that's
the
not the
word,
word.
but go on.
But basically, they have their own waste,
Yes.
uh, and both urine and the poop, but it progressively goes down. But basically, what's happening, that nutrient's still in the tank.
Yeah.
Like all these things don't take everything out of the food or out of the water that you're putting in the water from all that food that you're putting in there. So, first of all, by limiting how much they can eat, you're going to make it so that they're going to get more nutrient out of the food that's in the digestive tract because they're not pushing it through.
Hmm.
And so, and then on top of that, by feeding multiple times in the day, um, and I consider 4 times to be uh, a minimum for me. Um, and anecdotally, I see a difference in my seahorses. I
Gotcha.
am, I'm not equipped to do a lab study to actually say weigh each seahorse and come to the exact same size as the seahorse being fed a different way. I don't get into that. But in 18 years that I've been in this, and the way I was feeding before, and I see how much healthier these are now, and there's definitely a big difference in the fact that I don't have the problems that I used to have.
Well,
And
I just want to, I saw someone just joined. I just want to say excellent advice on feeding. If you're new to this, though, I think the main thing to keep in mind is that you know, the more you feed, the more work it's going to be to clean up. You got to go one way or the other. I mean, you can't go one way or the other. If you feed more, you got to clean up more. There's lots of talks about overfeeding seahorses and blah blah blah. So Ray, you gave perfect advice. I might have a different method of figuring out how much to feed, but I agree that multiple feedings of smaller portions is better, and overfeeding is always going to end up bad for the aquarium. And Dan joined us. Welcome, Dan. What's up?
Oh, I just walked in, tired.
Oh no, gosh. Well, thank you for jumping in. Do you want to tell us real quick how you're doing? I mean, anything new?
Doing
Anything?
doing fine. Got up 5 o'clock this morning, hitched up the trailer, and headed across state to pick up my bike. And
Your
8 hours. Yep, 8 hours of driving today. So I'm that pooped me. And then I had to go terrorize my grandson and chase him around on his bike.
And
how
bike
old's
by
your,
bike. Sorry.
Huh?
how old's
How,
your grandson, man?
8.
So he's got a little mini bike.
It's a little bitty dirt bike.
Yeah.
it's funny. I'm actually buying myself a bike so I can keep up with my girls. For a second, I thought you were talking motorcycle, and I got all excited. But still
I
exciting.
was.
Oh, you
Yep.
were. What do you mean then?
Huh?
I think I got confused. You went to pick up your motorcycle,
Yep.
and your 8-year old son and what? Somebody.
My grandson has a little dirt bike.
And so you on your motorcycle and him on his dirt bike were out.
Well, mine's a dual sport. It goes in the pavement or the dirt.
Nice. I love it. I'm sorry you had to drive so far though. Very cool.
Well, I didn't want to pay the shipping, so besides I wanted to go look at it before I actually completely finalize the deal.
Sure.
Um, and just a long drive. That's all.
Sure. So is it a new bike or
2016 with 5,000 miles.
and you just purchased it today?
Actually, about a week and a half ago.
Wow, and you just had to get it. That's so cool though. Wow, I'm so jealous. When I finally come to visit, I want to ride for sure.
You didn't see it on my Facebook page?
I haven't even been on Facebook, I'll admit it
If you go to
completely.
my personal if you go to my personal Facebook page, you'll see a picture of it.
You know, I'm going to say something really terrible, you guys, because I can't tell you how much I appreciate every single happy birthday. But in the week following my birthday, I usually avoid Facebook because it's just like ding, ding, ding. You know what I'm saying? So apologies. I will go look as soon as we're done. Um, Anything else going on with you?
Uh, Other than the fact that I'm still a mean honorary SOB, no.
I hear a little clankety clank. What are you drinking on tonight?
Irish mist.
Irish Mist. See, I can't wait till social distancing's over and I can come visit. Dang it. I'm telling you. But we were talking a lot about that stuff. We were talking about seahorse feeding. We'll jump into questions. Was there anything I know you said you just walked in, but was there anything that you wanted to comment on? Or
Now, somebody
just
posted something about minis, and I got bombarded today with messages while I was on the road.
oh, no kidding? What'd they post? Where
I don't
at?
know. I got to go figure it out. But somewhere somebody said something because anytime I get a flurry of people inquiring, it's always because somebody posted somewhere.
Sure. And
Yeah,
are
on your page, Dan, and some guy wanted to know about the minis or something, and where to get them, and they told him they had to get in touch with you.
Gotcha. Well, it was more than one person.
do you know are I
Well,
mean are the
maybe because people saw the message and maybe they
sure.
didn't post about it, but they got after you for it.
Yeah.
Are you still
Don't you
selling
wish you
them?
had a lot more of them now?
Oh, both of you at once. One more time, Ray.
Don't you wish you had a lot more of them now?
Well, I still have some. The problem I'm running into is I'm getting short on females because everybody wants to buy females.
Mm.
Oh
And
yeah.
when I was doing wholesale, I could wholesale out the males and keep my ratios. But
Yeah.
it's kind of tough at the moment because I'm gonna run out of females before males.
But so they
You
are
So
still for sale?
always had more males.
yeah, they still are for sale. They're a year old now.
And they're
The
still
large,
tiny, right?
the largest ones are 4.5 inches, maybe.
Wow.
Most of them are around. The males are around 4 inches, and the females are smaller.
Wow. What were you saying, Ray? I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, I can't even remember now.
That's my line.
Mine
The
too.
last I remember saying was I always had more males than females. I never
Yep.
knew why, but it just was that way. And it didn't matter whether it was the red eye or the barbs or the erectus, it was always more males.
I normally run about a 50-50 ratio normally. Now, sometimes there'll be an odd batch that's one or the other, but we historically ran very close to even ratios.
Do you think
Well,
there's a reason for that? Because I'm with Ray. Every time I had a batch, it was mostly males and a few females.
yeah, I would say on average it was 55 to 60% males,
Yeah.
but often you would get pretty close to the 50-50, but still, when you were close, it was still an edge out to the male side.
Is that like a genetics thing, Dan? Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. It's interesting because I remember a while back one of the Signathet org members had two batches of males and they were 99%. I mean, two batches of fry, they were 99% male. Um, I wonder if there's something that doesn't affect which way they go.
There has to be. But, anyways, anything else with you besides trying to catch up with selling the minis?
No, I'm still just as ugly as ever.
Well, with the minis, how do people contact you at this current stage?
Text or phone call to my
And
cell phone.
and will you do a post or something when they're no longer available?
Yeah, eventually I'll put it up there. In fact, I'll probably take down or redo my website so it only has my articles at that point.
Well, it's still a fantastic website with fantastic articles for sure, but I hear you. Are you planning on doing anything new, or are you kind of still focusing on your life?
Not in the immediate future.
Hmm.
I'll decide what I'm going to do probably after the summer if I want to do a batch here and there. But at the moment, I haven't attempted to raise a batch in a year now.
Gotcha. Hey, really quickly, I want to ask a non-seahorse question. I saw Chimp. Hello, Chimp. How are you? How are you doing? I was asking Melissa earlier about upcoming events. I know you kind of stay in touch with that stuff too. I'm very curious. I saw that MACNA was still going to be held this year. I'm curious if any of the other upcoming events are going to be held and which you might be going to. So, all right. Sorry to interrupt.
Where is MACNA this year?
You know what? I feel like such a jerk. I can't remember. I know it's a desert area. It's
Oh,
like, hang on. I'm going to tell you in 10 seconds. We actually had another question before you came, Dan, and we'll get back to seahorses in just a second. But have you ever dealt with, how do you deal with diatoms in an aquarium? I know you're a breeder, but how do you advise people to deal with diatoms?
usually let them run their course, but I've never had to deal with them.
Why?
Probably because I run bare bone systems.
Okay. So it's really just organics and the life cycle of stuff and bacteria
I
and blah,
mean,
blah, blah.
probably. I mean, if you look at what I do, I often bring a tank up and put fry in it within a day or two. Um, you know, I either have media that's already cycled in most cases, or I'll add bacteria.
Mhm.
Um, it's very rare for me to actually cycle a tank.
Sure.
Um,
Right. Well, that's why I'm gonna get you some more specific answers again. But flow's definitely one thing, and I just personally have always let it run the course. But I'll get you some more answers. MACNA this year, guys, 2020 isn't. I said earlier it was Arizona, and I was right. Yay, Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm frankly feeling badly because I haven't been jumping on the planning for that event because for women in reefing and seahorse pipefish because of the fact that I didn't know if it was going to be held. So, Dan, do you think you'll go?
I doubt it.
Ah, I'll talk him into it. No, go ahead.
That's a long ways to go. Number one.
Hmm.
Number two, I can't make the final decision until
Last minute.
the last minute because of the hurricane season.
Sure.
And although it will be a little bit different this year, I won't have you know as much to. It's going to be kind of strange. My hurricane preparation plans are drastically changing now.
Why is that?
Well, because I don't have to worry about having 30 some odd systems running during no power.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
I have a site question to ask you, Kelly.
Okay.
If I go to, right now I'm on YouTube,
Yes.
and I look underneath the pictures and that, and there's nothing there. When I go to Facebook, it has, uh,
A bunch of crap that I need to get rid of.
it has
Yeah.
all the words, like if you talk and I talk, the captions are all there. And yet it does the same picture is on the Seahorse Whisperer, same format, but it doesn't have the captions on there.
On which one? On YouTube, it doesn't have the captions?
Yeah, YouTube, I don't see any captions, but on Facebook, I do see it.
Huh. Well, I don't know I don't know the answer to that. I'm gonna have to look into it. No, I'll find out. I do know that that's originally I couldn't figure it out to be completely honest, and that's why when people rewatch the video, all the comments are in way too tiny of a format on the actual video. That would be very difficult to read. I need to reset the format, but I'll look into it, Ray, because I'm really not sure why it's in one place and not the other. I use too many.
Just curious, that's all.
I'll let you know for sure because it's a good question. And I saw another question I wanted to comment on. Let's see. It was It was someone said something about why do I picture you feeding seahorses with tweezers one at a time? As funny as it is, when I have specific species that are maybe more picky, I target feed. So it's not tweezers, it's a baster, but I'll do one piece at a time until they eat it. So it's not that funny. And all right, let's see. Did hopefully the answer of how to get minis from Dan got answered already. And Salty mentioned that Fish of Hex has a ton of great information, videos on dinos. Absolutely great channel, and I support them. And yes, definitely go look. I'll also get you the recommendations that worked for me in my reef tank from Cruise Arius, and we'll either talk about it in a video or I'll get with you in comments. All right, what else do we want to talk about, you guys? I know it's late, but Dan just showed up, so I'm trying to let it roll for a bit longer. Dan, anything else you wanted to chit chat about, or did you just jump in to say hi?
Well, I thought I would jump in because
The minis.
I didn't jump in last week.
Hey, now, don't beat me up. We were late today.
I didn't.
I know, but we were late today because I literally started up and there was a big orange box like covering everything that would have been the hangout. I don't know. I guess I'm not very computer savvy. I'm sitting here taking software development courses and I can't make a hangout work. I don't know, guys. But, uh, anyways, I'm still glad you're here. And yeah, I don't know. Have you seen? Ray mentioned that you're the person that sees how the flow of the posts and etc. go. Have you noticed a decline in posts and etc. on Seahorse Whisper or Seahorse Sources group? Sorry.
I haven't been keeping up with it, to be honest.
Gotcha. Everybody's been so slack. I gotcha. Hey, where's I don't mean to, guys. If you have Seahorse questions, ask in the comments, please. But I'm just curious when I talk to people from different areas how it's going as far as quarantine. So, Dan, how is it going as far as quarantine in Florida?
Well, I can't speak for the whole state of Florida.
Okay.
I can only speak for the local area. And locally, it's becoming very much normalized. Not everything is open, but people are opening up. I would say probably 60-70% of the people are not wearing masks. Um, the grocery stores are still closing a couple of hours early, so they have time to clean up stuff. Almost all the retail places have plexiglass as a barrier.
Right.
My understanding is the restaurants are starting to open back up. A lot of them are still just drive-through or pickup only. I think they adjusted it so that if they have outdoor seating, you can eat outdoors, not indoors. Beaches are open again. Driving or traffic is normal for this time of year. People are out and about, and the majority of the people that I see every day, for the most part, I'd say 90% of them take it as, it is what it is, and they want to go on about their lives.
Sure.
I do see a lot of old people. I've got a lot of old farmers that come in that are in their 80s. And it's interesting to hear them because they come in and go, it's a bunch of,
Right.
if I get it, I get it. If not, I got work to do. The hell with them,
Sure.
They're hardcore. And then, of course, once a day or every other day, I'll get somebody comes in, wearing a hazmat suit and, with a bottle of alcohol that sprays everything in their way. But those people are few and far in between.
Well, I'll tell you this. The reason that I asked first and foremost is because we were talking earlier. I'm very concerned because my significant other's job is centered around trade across borders. And so if one area or one state or, Canada or Mexico or whatever stays in quarantine and the U.S. opens up, it's really going to still be not very effective in solving things. The other thing is that my son has been trying to plan a trip to California forever in order to visit his brother, not by me, his brother-in-law, whatever, who's in the military before he has to take off for Vietnam. and he really wants to see him before he has to go. But in order to go, he's trying to get me to go and the family to go with him, and it's like everything's still closed down. The beaches apparently are still closed down there. So, and then finally, Ray and I had a discussion earlier because Ray's in his position, in the exact opposite position. We've talked about it many times before. But what would be your resolution for keeping the people that need to be safe, and yet resuming the countries? Did that sound right? What would you say?
That's a real toughie, and
I
that's
know.
where part of the problem is that, you know, what the problem is that even people that have been sheltering in place are still getting it.
Right.
So, this thing appears to be very contagious, but on the other hand, the mortality rate is drastically lower than they first said it was. That I think they're going to find the mortality rate is going to be something like 0.2 or zero point 0 something percent when they get down to the final numbers. Um, so there's a real good chance that somebody can get it. Even, I read stories all the time with people in their 90s and 100 that are, get it and walk away from it.
Really? Wow.
Yes. By the same token, I personally know people who have died, and you know, I don't want to downplay it one single minute. And I'll tell you, when you have it, it's a scary thing when you don't know how bad it's going to get and you're short of breath.
Right.
But um, unless you have underlying conditions, there's a real good chance that you'll probably, can survive it. Um, but to prevent it, I don't know really how you can, other than being totally 100% isolated. And they keep talking about waiting for the vaccine. The problem with that is, if you think about it for just a moment, there's multiple different types of coronaviruses.
Mm-hmm.
They have yet to come up with a vaccine for any of them.
Really? Oh, I didn't
Yes.
know that.
So far, yeah. So, you know, we can't we can't hold everything in place until there's a vaccine. Um, the the people will not survive that long. And the other thing is that you have to look at what's happening to other people. I mean, there's people that needed a cardiac stent that can't get it. Do they have to die because everything is on lockdown?
Right.
Do people have to have cancer metastasized because they can't get treatment till the lockdown's done?
Right.
There's all kinds of other people with other issues
Right.
that really should be being treated that are on standby until this stuff, is opened back up.
Well,
So,
interestingly enough, when Ray and I were talking, he has this position based on his situation, and I completely understand it. But he said he was afraid he would not go to the hospital because it was a death sentence. So I guess that's my big, I wish people were concentrating more on that. How do we protect the people who truly need to be protected so that they can go to the doctor or hospital, and or isolate them so that they can't get sick until we figure this crap out, but not destroy economies and blah blah blah. Go on, sorry.
yeah, as a personal protection measure, the first thing you should be doing is make sure that you're eating a proper diet and work on your own immunity system.
Hmm.
And that involves proper diet. If you're deficient in any type of vitamins, taking those. Vitamin D is proven to be a big deal with this thing. People
Mm.
that are low in vitamin D are more apt to get it. And if they get it, they're more apt to have more complicated problems. Um, washing your hands when you come in contact with stuff. The mask idea really doesn't protect the person as much as it does prevent people who have it from spreading it.
But wait,
Um,
sorry.
My mask is designed to protect me as well.
is that so? You have an N95,
My mask fits right to me. So if
right?
I blow out, it goes through the mask. It doesn't go out anywhere around the outside of the
Right.
mask.
Is that an N95 mask?
No, it's a mask made. The framework is made with a coat hanger, and it fits exactly to my face.
Right.
And it has a chamois that's sewn onto it, and then inside it has two thicknesses of vacuum cleaner bag.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
Ray
Well,
shared
what
Dan. I just wanted to say also earlier in the show, Ray shared his ingenious way of creating a shield. So he doesn't just wear the mask; he has the shield too, which I thought was really cool.
I
But
have
go
to
on.
wear a shield to deflect, if I do get something coming at me, it at least deflects stuff so that it's less likely to come to the mask. The mask isn't a perfect barrier.
Sure.
It's just that the two together make it better.
I would agree that it makes it better. I just know that the typical mask does not protect you. The particles are so small. Viruses are very they're smaller than bacteria. Um,
Jeez.
Well, this setup is good for 1.7 microns, which still isn't small enough, but it's better than these people using the coffee filters on there at 20 microns.
Right.
right. No, I would agree with that, Ray, and I still think you should take precautions. But
I
um,
have to, or I'm dead. Like with my kidneys and lungs, I haven't got a chance. And the doctor,
yeah,
right off the bat, she called up and she says, "You're not coming in here anymore." And she canceled my appointment. We talk on the phone. Um, and she's telling me I'm going to be this way for years, and I can't be around my kids because a couple of them working out of hospitals. Another one's a school teacher. Another one works at Cami, that car manufacturer, and they're all in high risk jobs um,
right.
for this thing.
Well, anybody that's dealing with the public would be a high risk to you.
Right.
Um, you know that at least in the medical field, you know they're high risk. But the problem is that in the retail world, there's a lot of times people don't. You're not aware of what you're in contact with. Um,
Right.
it's a toughie, and I have very mixed feelings going back and forth. I just know that there's no way that we can survive keeping everything shut down long term until this is completely over.
No, you can't.
So,
You'll never get be able to stay that long because this
right,
thing is going to be around for a long time.
right.
And do you
But
guys?
I do
Sorry.
think that herd immunity is going to kick in, and I think that we're going to continue to see cases. But even if they open things up, you would see some spikes. But I don't think you're going to see what we had in the beginning. And studies are already showing that this stuff was here before we even knew it was here.
I believe that
In
too.
Florida, well, in Florida, they've had people that had it back in December and January before they were doing testing. And they're knowing this by going back and doing the antibody testing of when these people were sick and haven't been sick since then. And they're showing positive for this stuff.
We have one
Um,
here in Canada from the last week of November. They didn't know it at the time, but they went back and checking on people that died of various things, and they picked out certain specific things that may have been uh, overlooked for the virus and got categorized elsewhere. And so then when they do the testing, um, they found a couple, but the oldest one was from the last week of November.
Yep. There was a study done out of England by some, I forget what the hell you call them. They studying the genes of all these viruses and stuff, and their research was coming back and saying this stuff was basically September, October is when it actually started.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to laugh while you were speaking. I saw Philosophish say that quarantine in Connecticut is weird. Everything is weird. My kids' teachers lied. They are not a joy to have in class. Oh my gosh, you are so right. And I'm curious, you guys. I had this thought, because I could see a lot of businesses restructuring permanently because of this, like restaurants, for example, or even doctors. My children, we had to drive to Muncie to see this particular doctor every month for something or other. Now we're doing it online. Do you think that these things will be permanent changes, and how is that going to affect the jobs?
Well, you're going to have a lot of companies going to look at the fact they're getting by right now with using the internet and that kind of thing and teleconferencing. So why should we be paying for office building that we're housing all these offices in and having all these desks and chairs and furniture and whatever. Uh,
You know,
there's going to be
Ray,
some people are going to say,
there,
well, we can make a lot more money and do away with that.
there is something to the teleconferencing and there is something to this telemedicine thing, but I'm going to tell you something. This telemassage crap doesn't work.
Well, I can tell you that
Never had
teleschools,
in my life.
the teleschools, I agree with Philosophish. I'm not down with the teleschools. My girls, we made a deal. Tell me, you guys, anybody else who's watching, tell me if you've had some issues with the schooling. Because the bottom line is, I talked to my girls when this first started, when they decided to do it from home, and I said, okay, we're going to set up school at home. I'm going to be mom of the year. I am going to set up this entire desk table for 3 people. We're all going to sit there. I'll learn my software development stuff. I'll be right there to help you with any class you need. You're going to sit out there. You're going to do all your classes for 7 hours as you would in school. And it didn't occur even a single day because they were like, no. My girls are 13, by the way. But it was like, no. And I wasn't going to yank them out of bed. So we made another deal that they would do their work. They would show it to me. And, we'd proceed from there. That didn't happen one day. And I'm now realizing that our deals aren't working. And they won't ask me for help. I've begged them to let me help. They won't let me help. And now there's all these assignments that are missing because I'm not very good at following the Canvas stuff, which is what we use here. And the girls are like, oh, that's gym. It doesn't matter or whatever. So are you guys having troubles at home? And help me, please, because I'm not Mother of the Year and I need to get them back on track. All right. Sorry for the sideline, but I totally agree. And yeah, teaching, I have not appreciated teachers so much. My mother was a teacher. I've always known that teachers were valuable, but now I know how valuable they truly are. There are good and bad in everything, but the good teachers so matter. Thank
My
you,
school teacher
teachers.
daughter doesn't like this tele teaching bit.
Well, they're not even doing that here. They're not teleteaching. They're literally just, you know, given the assignments. They're not even teaching. Are
Well,
they?
she's doing teaching on it, but she says it's so hard. You can't give the attention to the person that's needed the way that you can in a classroom. And she says, this teleconference, it's more everybody's getting about the same level of attention, and it doesn't work right in real practice.
Well, I'm glad you're saying these things, and I'm glad I'm seeing the comments about teleconferencing stuff is not working because my family and I have a new thing we're doing, a trivia game where we all get on Zoom and we get to associate with each other and visit each other and play fun games with the kids and stuff, and it's great. But as far as services, I agree it's not working, and I'm really worried about the restaurant industry. I really am because they were already going to, like McDonald's and all those places, which aren't technically restaurants, but you know what I'm saying? They were already going to the, order on the little kiosk, and Applebee's went that way. And I just see a lot of people in the restaurant industry, which they're not highly skilled servers, but I mean, even my girls trying to get jobs when they're 16, 17, and 18, I don't think those jobs are going to be there. I think it's going to be really electronic from now on to avoid human contact, which isn't good. Don't we need human
No,
contact?
I think you'll see a shift. It's going to be a while, but you'll see a shift back.
You do? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I miss.
There's too many of us that, a great example is this. Think of all the people that you've talked to, and then think about after you went to the first MACNA, the people that you met, and then you talk to them afterwards. It's an entirely different relationship. And, you can't replace that face-to-face stuff with
No.
just, you know, it's just different, And I'm old school, but the first thing I do is stick out my damn hand, and some of the people reach out and grab it, and some of the people, look at me like I got 3 heads. But
Sure. I mean, my sister, I'm not a hugger. I like my space, guys. Don't come up and hug me at MACNA, please. Space. Hi. Anyway, We can hug if I really know you, but other than that, no. Anyways, but my sister is a hugger, and she's going crazy. She can't stand the thought of a new world where we're not supposed to touch each other, you know? And it's just, it's weird. I don't know. But I
Tell
think,
her I need a hug. She can come hug me.
okay, I will. But I will say again, just I don't mean to keep bringing up MACNA, guys, but I think I'm going to really try to go. And I think that it would be a big statement if we all tried to go and do something big at MACNA this year. We can wear masks if we got to. Hopefully by then it'll be better, but I think we should all try to go. And oh, another thing about like conferences like that in association with the reefing world is that the only reason you people know my name whatsoever is because of these conferences. Yes, I'm a big mouth. Yes, I have strong opinions. Yes, I try to help people with seahorses and macros and etc. But the reason that I got connected with so many different people in the industry was from going to these events. It's just like an eye-opening, world-opening experience where you can talk to the top dogs. So I mean, I found a picture from Midwest Aquatic Convention where I spoke. I got invited to speak. Seahorse Whisperer Nobody got invited to speak at a conference because of the people that I've met, and I got to sit with Mike Paletta. I mean, it's nuts. So I think we should all go to MACNA. All right, sorry. Back to seahorses and questions, guys. Sorry. That's my spiel for the day. And Mermaid's Reef, your son sounds amazing. Tell him my daughters need tutored. Okay? Because I can't do it. I can't be the teacher, you know. And I'm just glad, Dan, that you say that we will go return to, a different place. But do you think that I'm wrong? Do you think that businesses will restructure in the meantime, and that some of these jobs won't be regained?
That is true. That is very true. There's going to be some jobs that are gone, and God help us if the current proposal goes through where we subsidize all the illegal immigrants and give them money and give them the jobs instead of the people that are out of work now. Um, the there's going to be a shift, and what will happen is, and you'll see it happen, is that after a while, there'll be some places that'll go back old school, and people will flock to those places. And people that run the stores are going to do what attracts the people and where they make money. So, in some businesses, you can get away with more technology, or with these high tech companies, they're finding out that some of the people are more productive working from home than they are in the office.
Hmm.
So, that has a positive effect for them, but it's also a negative effect because now you need less real estate for office space. But the positive side of it, of course, is from a green standpoint. There's less driving, there's less commuting, there's less people on the roads. There are pros to it, but there's also cons in everything that we do. There's always a plus and a minus, no matter how you look at everything.
Sure. I
Dan, I'm curious how you would handle situations where there are jobs that non-immigrants don't want to do. We have a situation here right now in Ontario here, and it's probably across Canada, but I know for sure here in Ontario, where we have all kinds of people that are out of work because of this COVID. We have all kinds of jobs on the farm. They don't want to do it. And because they're blocking the immigrants from coming in to do it, uh, the farms are just, like they got asparagus fields here, they're just letting go to seed now.
Well,
Various other
there, right.
products that they can't harvest, and
Well,
because
Ray,
they don't want to do it.
right there, I would agree that those people need to come in and do the work if the other people aren't going to do the work. What I'm talking about, though, what I'm referring to is, for example, in the medical community, where we lay off the existing workers and then we bring in immigrants that are being taught in the medical field and then hire them for less money to work in the medical field. And American the American citizens are then out of work. Um, when it comes to farm labor, unfortunately, I don't know if it happens. It sounds like it happens up there just as much as it does down here. There are people who take that uppity attitude that I'm too good for that kind of work. Um, the job that I currently do is very laborious. I'm not in a high paying job right now. I've worked at it, at executive levels as VP level before in corporations, but right now I work in a feed store and I lug 50-pound sacks of feed all day long. Um, it's not above me. You know, some people it is. What I don't know what to say. It's just I think that a lot of our society today we've through the last 20 years or so, there's been a big push for education, education, education. And a lot of these kids are going to school. They're coming out of college with a degree, and yet they're not finding work, and they don't want to work, and they expect easy money. And I'm sorry, sometimes you have to work.
Sure. I'm not going to even comment on that topic because I have mixed feelings on both sides. But I did want to mention that Philosophish said that he was just looking online for info on seahorses and came across this channel. I want to say again, we love talking seahorses. You're talking to three people that have dealing with seahorses for a very long time, hobbyist, breeder, and I'm going to call Ray Pro, whatever. So ask, but on one, and we do videos. Seahorse Sources group is exceptional. But on one Wednesday, this is supposed to be a gathering just to come together. So if anybody has seahorse questions, we're here to answer them. Otherwise, we're gonna chit chat about whatever's going on, and we want to hear from you too and what's going on with you. So thank you so much. We're glad you're here, I just want to reiterate that we're more than willing to talk seahorses at any point.
Seahorses are the first priority.
Yes, there. Thank you. That's a perfect way to say it. I ramble a little bit, but anyways, okay. So I didn't mean to interrupt, guys. Was there anything else you wanted to say about the topic we were talking about, or anything seahorse we need to chat about? We've been going a long time. It's 10 o'clock. Ray, I can't believe you're up past your bedtime.
Past my bedtime.
I'm kidding. I was
I don't
teasing.
go to bed till midnight.
I was teasing you, but you should.
Oh,
What are you doing staying up
oh,
till midnight?
well, um, first of all, trying to get to sleep is a problem. So
Sure.
I can go to bed at midnight and still be awake at 4.
Ray, let me ask you a question. Did you say you had some issues with kidneys?
With kidneys, yeah,
Yeah.
I have kidney disease, and the right side kidney has shrunk up, and it's restricting flow to the left side kidney. So I'm just trying to hold off going on dialysis. Um,
Do you have a pen handy?
a pen,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. Write this down.
While he's
Okay.
okay, go ahead.
Alpha lipoic acid. ALPHA. Second word, lipoic. LIPOIC. Next word, acid. ACID. Look that up and do a Google for alpha lipoic acid or ALA and kidney disease and see what you find there.
Will it make my kidney grow back full size again?
My uncle, who was in stage 4, brought him back to 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Alpha lipoic acid is it's a supplement, and the body produces it. But if you supplement the body with it, alpha lipoic acid regenerates some of your vitamins. But it's particularly helpful people with kidney disease, and it helps increase the efficiency of the kidneys. And there's some people who
vitamin D anyway for it.
yeah,
Vitamin D is good for it.
right. But there's a lot of people that I won't say it's a cure all or a fix, but many people that have kidney issues find improvement when they take alpha lipoic acid.
You know?
But do a Google on it, look it up, and then before you take it, get permission from your kidney doctor before you do.
Yeah.
Dan, I mentioned.
Every time I turn around when they change my medications, it's a process trying to make sure that all the other medications are
Yep,
going to be
absolutely.
handled because years ago and I can't remember what drug it was now. They put me on a drug that interfered with another drug, and then it just about cost me my life.
Well, quite often you take one drug and it creates symptoms, and you take another drug for those symptoms, and then
Yeah,
it gets very complicated. But that's why I said, if you're a young buck, I'd say take it. But if you've got multiple things going on, it's best to talk with your kidney doctor. And in my uncle's case, he's approaching 80. He's a Vietnam vet. He's got all kinds of problems, and
just to be
um,
sure here, the second word Lipioc.
yeah, Lipoic,
Yeah,
LIP.
okay.
It's L Larry, I is in India, P is in Papa, O is in Oscar, I is in India, and C is in Charlie.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that all this information actually ends up valuable, guys, because the reason that my big birthday gift, Dan, I announced earlier, my big masticating juicer that I want recipes for, and Dan is great with this kind of information. He's the one that talked to me about juicing, and I'm so excited to start because, yay!
We we have a question.
I saw it. I was gonna say it, but if you would like to, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll let you go.
Okay, MS asked, how do you know if a seahorse is pregnant?
Depends what stage.
You go to CVS and you get a pregnancy test kit. No,
Incorrect answers. Bang bang on both of them.
You know what?
Go, Dan.
all right,
I'm gonna let you answer, but I have a further question. Go
all right,
ahead.
all right. Um, Seahorses can sometimes fool you in that the first thing that you watch for pregnancy is you watch the pouch, and as the pouch gets larger, then often that's because they're pregnant. Now, sometimes males will hold water as a way to impress the ladies, and I like to use the analogy: it's like the young male that's flexing his muscle in front of the girls, trying to show off. Um, the bigger the pouch, and the more they can hold, the more desirable they are to the females. But
Like
in
a
terms of the
peacock.
male being
Sorry.
pregnant, yep. In terms of the male being pregnant, most pregnancies are going to run somewhere between 10 to 20 days, with 14 being the average. So if they have a big pouch and they haven't delivered within a couple of weeks, there may be a false pregnancy. Another way that you can tell is that if you take a light and shine it on the back side of the seahorse facing you, if you can see light through the pouch and it's translucent, then the male is holding water. If you
Hmm.
can't see through the pouch, then odds are he's full of eggs and fry.
I did not know that, the light trick. That's amazing.
It's
And
like can
It's called candle. Yeah, it's called candling.
that's awesome. I just had never heard it. So there you go. And actually further question I was going to ask is, about the poofing of the pouch to impress the female. So you already answered it. But at what point do you become concerned, like that it's going to turn into some sort of, like what Ray dealt with, the pouch
I
emphysema?
I don't.
You don't get
I
concerned.
don't.
Okay.
No, because normally if they are pregnant and it's a bad pregnancy, they will abort and usually dump the stuff out. And a majority of the time, it's not a big deal. They dump it out. They flush their pouch and they do it again.
Sure. Uh,
Uh,
I
Go
would
ahead.
no. I was just gonna say the way that I always knew seahorses were pregnant is based on watch because I watch them constantly. I'm sure you probably do too, but I would always see the cording. Now many people miss the cording, but I always saw the cording. Now they court constantly, meaning they spin around each other and do the twirl up. But I was just often able to catch the actual
That
sex,
that is right.
but
That's a very very good indicator. The other thing that I failed to mention is to watch him afterwards, because quite often, once a male becomes pregnant, he becomes reclusive,
yes.
and he'll tend to have a tendency not to be very active. He'll hitch somewhere, kind of hide, and
Mhm.
then quite often they will cut down on how much they eat. Now,
Oh,
the other
that's good.
question is, how often do they breed? They can go basically as soon as they have the fry, they can do it again. And some species like H. reedi, H. cuda, will often breed as soon as they have the babies, they get pregnant again, and it's a repetition, almost like every 2 weeks, like clockwork. Erectus, Barbary, um, and a few other species have a tendency to breed in spells where they'll get pregnant several times in a row and then take a break. And how many times they get pregnant and how long the break is can vary greatly.
I know a breeder in the UK who was convinced that the breaks were based on timing of the year, like spring, summer, fall, but just no proof to that. But interesting.
I've seen amongst having multiple tanks with multiple breeders, I've seen great variances in that.
Well, there you go. Um, and yeah, does the breeding depend on the female? I mean, obviously, I think that it does because the female has to make the eggs, and nobody ever really talks about this. But you mentioned how a male, once he's pregnant, will be seclusive and not eat as much and etc. I've seen the same of females getting ready to mate. Have you ever noticed that? Maybe it
Not
was
really.
maybe I had weird females, but I would think
No.
something was wrong with them, and then they would breed and they'd be fine.
Well, you got to remember these guys are individuals, and
Sure.
that's the problem I have with people who say, "Well, I've had seahorses for 10 years, and they've only had a couple of
Two.
pairs."
Right.
It's hard for them to, you know, what they saw is valid, but people like myself that have had
Sure.
multiple broodstock pairs, I'm going to see a higher variance in what's going on.
Sure. Okay. Well, good. I think we covered that. And what was the other question? I missed it. Can you
Was
mix? Oh,
how frequently they breed.
sure. And then I see, can you mix any type of fish with seahorses in the same tank? My answer is no. What's your answer,
What?
Dan?
No, you can, but not with good results.
Well, that's a better answer. But Dan, actually, I really, really love if you're willing.
Fish,
What, Ray?
don't put them in with a lionfish.
Yeah, I'd say. Um, Dan, what's your explanation? Because I never do it properly about risk tolerance.
Well, risk tolerance is based upon the individual. Some people are more daring and willing to take a higher degree of risk, knowing that there's a higher chance of failure or loss of the animals. And some people are more daring in terms of what they mix together. Other people, there's some people whose risk tolerance is what I call very low, and the thought of losing a seahorse or one of the fry or something like that will bring tears to their eyes. And I tell people when they want to introduce things, think of your risk tolerance level. If you've got a low level, go safe. If you have a high level, want to be daring, so be it. I don't judge people based upon what they want to do.
Sure.
I will warn people, as Ray said, you put a seahorse in with a lionfish, you're probably not going to have a seahorse
Right.
very long. Um, but on the other hand, some of the things that it's like the clownfish is always a constant controversial topic because some people have success keeping seahorses with clowns, and some clowns are
I would argue short term, but go on. Sorry.
well. I've known people who've had them in their long term, but typically what happens is they start with the seahorses first. They introduce the clowns when they're small. It's a bigger tank. They're probably going to have a higher degree of success than somebody that has a 30-gallon with a pair of clowns in it and they
Sure.
drop some seahorses in it.
Makes sense. So I just like when you explain that because that's the bottom line. If you ask me, I'm extremely careful. I've got clownfish in my reef tank that bite my finger every time I put it in anywhere near the tank. They're jumping out to bite my finger. No way in heck I'd put my clownfish in with seahorses. There are other individual
Um,
clownfish that are very nice and would get along. And another point on clownfish is that it also depends on how many and their sex and etc. Because clownfish typically will change their sex to make pairs, and once they start looking at mom and pop trying to make babies, then they get really aggressive. So
yeah.
depends on your situation, but I don't mix hardly any other fish with seahorses. They got to be really slow eaters, really non-aggressive. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Philo Fish is asking about finding fish up on the beach in Connecticut, and what I can tell you is that, as Ray mentioned, erectus are found from basically um, South America all the way to Canada, and what you find is that even though they're the same species, they do vary in terms of their makeup. Southern erectus are very different from northern erectus. Um, the northern erectus are used to colder waters. I do consider them a cold water fish, if you will. Um, they even up around Boston area, lobstermen have been known to pull erectus up on their traps in 40-degree water. So if you took an erectus from Florida and put it up in New England, it's probably not going to do well. By the same token, if you take an erectus from Long Island Sound or Buzzards Bay or somewhere up in that area and put them in Florida waters, they probably won't do well either. In my experience in breeding them is that the the erectus from the northern waters do better in temperatures down in the 60s, where the southern variety will do better at warmer temperatures.
It might be a little bit off topic, but I also want to mention that the species thing is really difficult. You asked if they have a species native to here, and I just know that I really studied the species, and we actually had a case where Lucy thought that she had found a new species of seahorse, and we had like really high up people investigating this, and I think that they advance as they have to move into different areas and they adapt. And I think that they might even interbreed, and that's all I'll say about that. But am I way off here, Dan? I think they adapt as they go along, right? He
Yeah,
was
they
he
they
wasn't
they do
listening to me.
adapt.
Okay, because he said lion seahorse. I don't know. Just my thoughts. All right. And Dan's answering questions online. 60-gallon tank with 6 seahorses. Is there water volume to number of seahorses best ratio? Dan said 1 pair per every 25 to 30 gallons.
You
And
mispronounced it.
what did I mispronounce?
One Pierre.
Ah,
I
there you go.
misspelled it.
That's all right. But yeah, on this channel a lot, Ray will talk about his tanks and how he does things. And one thing I always try to mention is that you have to remember that someone that's been doing it for a really long time can get away with more because of what Dan mentioned, that, more maintenance, you can keep more seahorses. So the recommendation, he covered it. 1 pair per 25 to 30 gallons. And why do you think they showed
Um,
up at the beach?
well, first of all, Long Island Sound is actually full of seahorses. I know several people who collect from there regularly. And in fact, Todd did some of his studies based upon seahorses he caught in Long Island Sound.
No kidding.
But but I know several people who collect them. In fact, I know one person who was net breeding them in Long Island Sound. Um, but they're anywhere where there's grassy areas, you can potentially find seahorses um, pretty much around the world. Um, as far as the recommendations per gallon, what I will tell you is when I look at people who've kept seahorses for the same seahorses for 5 to 10 years, typically they have a low stocking density. The higher the stocking density, the higher the odds are of something going wrong. So to tell you that it can't be done would be a lie, because I keep up to 1 seahorse per gallon of water as a breeder.
Right.
But what I do with my tanks is much different than what a hobbyist does. Um, but if you really want to be successful, want to make it easy, stick with a low stocking density of roughly 25, 1 pair for every 25 to 30 gallons.
And I just got to say it because we were talking about mixing other fish in too. Like when somebody does a seahorse tank, you guys have no idea how magical seahorses are. They're so amazing. So I never even wanted to mix other fish in. I understand if you can only have one aquarium, you want to have it all, but I've got a reef tank and my seahorse tank is separate and they get special, I'm a seahorse mom. Hey, but I don't know. Anyways, I got off topic. Um, There was one other question I thought. Maybe not. Go on, Dan.
Well, snorkel gear in that kind of water. I've been back down here too long. I I spent some time up in New England, 14 years to be exact. It took me 2 years to get to go in the water, and now that I've been back down here, water gets below 80 degrees. I'm not in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, I'm going to sign off for now. I've got a few things to get done before it's my bedtime. So it
Sure.
was nice chatting with everybody. I'm glad to see people in here and ask some questions, and uh, even some that I can answer.
Thank you so much for coming, Ray. We're going to cut it short here in a second. I was going to ask Dan one more thing before we go, but thank you for coming. And go ahead, Dan.
Ray, have a great night. Stay safe and keep up with your stuff, man.
By the way, you guys should be doing good in Florida with this virus because Canadians are typically a little bit more reserved about it, and you've got a lot of Canadians in Florida.
Well, one of the things that's to our favor is that according to what they're finding is that warmer temperatures and humidity um, seem to slow down this thing. So, Florida is that's one of the big advantages to Florida over some of the other states.
Well, I don't think they're going to find it stays that way, to be honest with you.
No, it's going to morph, but we'll see what happens. But
Well, it's already, when you look at all the hot countries right now that have the problem, it's not going away, and some countries that are just getting their heat and it's coming in. So I'd say this is more resilient than say the flu. The flu is definitely a temperature related thing, but I'm not sure that this one's going to be.
well, what I can tell you is that what the scientists found through testing is that higher humidity, it doesn't live as long,
Yeah,
and warmer temperatures doesn't live as long. More sunshine doesn't, UV light doesn't live as long. So there's there's some advantages to where we are in that respect.
yeah.
But Florida has a horrible flu season as well. So you know, but at
We'll
any
see.
rate, have a great night and wish you the best, man.
Take care.
Absolutely. Okay, and then we had a couple. Oh, I need to turn my camera back on. So sorry, guys. I always take my little moments. Here I am. Okay, so I wanted to say to MS, in the as far as the question of can you show us your seahorse tank? If you mean me, absolutely. I just got to figure out how to maneuver the camera because I got some high tech stuff going on. But I still have. If you watch any of the videos on the channel, I still have probably 80% of the same aquarium set up. I didn't get as far as I wanted to with breeding, so the tubs are empty as we speak. And I have some very old and very lovely seahorses in a tank that I need to clean a bit better. So it's a little bit of embarrassment. But maybe if I share my aquarium, other people will understand that seahorses sometimes do well as long as you do the maintenance, even if it's not perfect. So I will get on that. I will definitely try to show you my seahorse tanks live, maybe one of these weeks, and I'll try to get on doing some better videos showing you what's going on right now. So thanks for the suggestion and question. And she asked, or she or he, sorry, asked, why is it so hard to find colorful seahorses, such as red or orange color? Can you recommend a website to buy colorful seahorses? I'm going to quickly say that Seahorse Savvy has some wonderful seahorses. And of course, Seahorse Source, when they have seahorses, is wonderful also. Dan, do you want to
Yep.
scientifically, expertly cover the color question?
Yep.
All right.
MS. The thing with seahorses is that for them to survive in the wild, they can't outrun anything, so they have to be still and blend in. So they are experts at camouflage. So as a consequence, seahorses are very much like a chameleon in that they change color to match their surroundings and to blend in, or become a color that is one that doesn't attract the fish predators, if you will. Seahorses are like cuttlefish, but cuttlefish can change much faster than seahorses. But any seahorse can be any color. The problem is that if you buy a seahorse based on a color, put it in your tank, odds are it will not stay the same color. And a classic example is one of my customers, who's also a friend, who happens to be a research doctor, does nothing but research, and I still could not get her to understand this concept that the seahorses, when you buy them and put them in your tank, odds are they're going to adjust their colors to blend into that tank. And she spent $800 to buy a red seahorse from a company, and because I wouldn't sell her one and guarantee the color, so she spent the $800, got the seahorse home, and in 2 months the seahorse was brown. So no matter what you buy, it really doesn't matter because they're probably going to adjust their colors based upon the tank that you have. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a seahorse that decides it wants to be colorful, but most of the time they're going to be some variation of colors. Seahorses can change color. They can change their patterns, whether they show saddles or no saddles,
Yep.
lines or no lines, spots or no spots. The cirri, the fronds that grow off of them, can come and go. So, for you to buy a seahorse based on a color is like you buying a green chameleon from me and putting it on a brown paper bag and don't understand why it didn't stay green.
And I can certainly back that up in my own tanks. There's a couple of videos, I'll try to link them when I'm done, where I literally show seahorses changing color based on the environment. And I have specifics. Go ahead.
Lucy has a great picture that she's posted several times online of the same seahorse with 9 different pictures, with the seahorse being 9 different
Yep.
coloration variations.
Yep. And so we can personally back that up. So never buy for that reason. But Dan, I was curious because, like, for instance, Sam had the sublong goddess, which was red and stayed red forever. You mentioned that they can just choose to, and I'm sure that that's true. And environment and etc. matters. But aren't there certain species or that just happen to be more colorful, like reed eye?
Well, it's not that they happen to be, I won't say happen to be more colorful. I would say they have a propensity to have a higher uh, chance of color. Reed eye are typically found in the Caribbean, which is, crystal clear water, lots of color,
Sure.
and they have a propensity to be more colorful should they decide to color up. And often, if they do color up, they're going to be brighter in color. But I can tell you, if you look at the picture of my avatar, the one that's showing right now, that seahorse, when I shipped it, was canary yellow, solid canary yellow.
Yep.
And that picture was taken 2 weeks later after the customer received it. When I shipped it, there was no lines, there was no markings. He was solid canary yellow.
Do you think that it has to do with comfort level also? What you mentioned earlier about crystal clear
Yes.
water was great because one of the experiments that I, not scientifically, but just on my own conducted was lighting. And that based on the lighting, the seahorse changed color and it was different. And their comfort level has to make a difference. If they're new, they're going to probably go dark. But what interested me the most is based on species, I bought Cuda from you that were orange and yellow, and they stayed orange and yellow. When I mentioned that to Chris in Australia, he was like, Cuda are black. Like all the Cuda there are black in Australia with their wonderful waters. Is that not a species
Well,
difference kind of thing?
there is a difference because the Cuda he's talking about are the Tuneropterus variety,
Okay.
and the Cuda that you got from me came from the Indo-Pacific area, and or their that was where they originated from. The Tuneropterus that I got from Australia from the same facility where he works were typically um, I don't want to. They were a cross between a bone to a yellow color that I had them
Hmm.
when I had them in my tanks.
Well, also just a final thought. If you want seahorses of beautiful color and you don't pay for the color and then you get the seahorse in the tank, I would advise blue background seems to help. colorful decorations and etc. Because I tried for a natural scape, and the seahorses that I had in one aquarium that were really colorful went into this natural scape with a lot of green macroalgae and gray colored rock. They all turned a grayish silver color. I love it. They look natural. They're beautiful. But if you want colorful, there are yellow chains. There are and Dan, what was your experience with trying to promote a seahorse to turn red?
Well, I never had much success with the red, and to get the red, you really have to feed a lot of red pigmentation. Um,
Gotcha.
it's difficult to do. It's the hardest color. You know, when I used to import seahorses from overseas, I used to bring red eye in, and Ananda used to send them to us as black erect red eye,
Hmm.
and they would arrive black. We'd put them in the tank, and in the course of 2 weeks, I would turn them canary yellow. To do that, they would start off as black. They would turn to red, orange, and then yellow. And a lot of times when I see seahorses that are very dark, that are like a black color, they will go through a morphing stage, often not hit red, but hit kind of a burnt orange type color,
Hmm.
and then yellow. And then, it was funny because Eliza down in Mexico once shipped me some red eye and some engines. The engines were all red, the red eye were all orange, and he and I had an argument for 2 years running over the colors. And he was insistent that he could breed them so they would stay the same color. And he used to get mad at me because I would always order black, and because they were cheaper.
Right.
And he would say, "Well, I got the color ones," and I go, "Yeah, but I can make them colorful." And we go round and round and round. He would insist that his colors were permanent. So he sent me 200 seahorses, 100 engines red, and 100 red eye orange. And in 2 weeks, I sent him a picture of 200 canary yellow seahorses.
Jeez. So are you? So you're saying that selective breeding doesn't really cut it when it comes to color?
No, not at all.
Okay. So any ad you see saying selectively bred canary yellow, it's not true, is what you're saying.
That's like breeding a chameleon lizard and saying that I bred them so that they'll stay green.
So you can't take the yellowest yellow seahorse and breed with the yellowest yellow. No. Okay. All right. And you also mentioned diet. Are there specific foods that you can give a seahorse to promote color?
Well, if they have a good diet, they're going to be more capable of changing color. Doesn't mean they will change color. Now, to get the red color, you do have to supplement red pigmentation, and you can do that through astaxanthin.
Yeah.
You can do it through the red shrimp and what have you.
Right.
And one company has access to an unlimited amount of red shrimp. So they
Ocean.
do get some red seahorses,
Nice.
but the average person can't afford that diet in red shrimp. So 2 months later, they're gonna change.
Well, I just want to say again, guys, seahorses are magical, and watching them change colors and be awesome and be so personable is amazing. The color changing is cool, so don't buy for color. That's all I got on that one. Anything else we want to say about that?
No, done.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, was there any other questions I missed? Tank tour for sure. I'm going to try to figure out how to use a camera to do that live, or I might just do it in a video. We'll see. But guys, it's 10:38. I've kept Dan up all night. I feel guilty. I really appreciate everyone who comes to these streams. Please tell your friends to come. We need more questions so we can talk seahorse. And with that, Dan, is there anything else you wanted to say or chit chat about? I got my glass in hand to say goodbye.
I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you guys, everyone, for coming. We'll see you next week for sure. And happy Wine Wednesday. Say bye, Dan.